get some.
Oh, shit! Rocket, shoot it! Come on, get back! Come on, get up, let's go!
Keep moving. I'll catch up.
So we are talking about the movie The Rift, a 1990 B-movie version of Leviathan that was already a B-movie version of Aliens. So this movie basically focuses on a crew of a submarine, and basically they are going to try and track down what's happened to another submarine that has kind of gone missing. They're trying to kind of retrieve the black box basically. And there's kind of like a secret government mission. You've got the engineer played by Jack Scalia, who seems to be in all these films in the kind of 90s. Who's ever a fan of Jack Scalia? He seemed to be in so many of these type of films back in those days, but I never really have heard anyone go, yeah, I'm totally a massive Jack Scalia fan. Anyway, I digress. So we have a kind of a motley crew of people basically going into this kind of like this large sort of crevice basically, where they find out there's all sort of strange life there, but is it natural or is it government made? You have to watch the movie to find out. So as I've alluded to, we had a whole rash of these underwater movies. Basically the most well known I would say is probably Deep Star 6 and Leviathan, and if they were the kind of like the mid-range movies that were kind of really sort of coming off of the Alien and Aliens basically thing, here's this kind of thing but underwater. This is the B-movie version of those movies. So I guess you could say this is a sea-level movie, and my god, the effects in this movie by today's standards are laughable. It's actually to the point where it's actually quite hilarious watching these effects. It actually reminds me, watching this movie in 2017, when I watched it, and we look back at this movie and think, man, this looks like it was made in the 50s. The kind of the effects that we're using, it's so shocking. I actually kind of quite like this movie when I first saw it back in VHS back in the day. But this movie suffers from all the kind of the typical kind of like 90s cliches that you kind of had in those movies. Of course, you've got the hunky hero who just happens to have an ex-lover who happens to be on this kind of ship, and no surprises who the last kind of people surviving are. There's no real surprises. It really just is a kind of a paint-by-numbers action kind of sci-fi horror film, really. That being said, there are some quite interesting kind of creature designs, and there are some interesting minor characters as well. You've got R. Lee Emery, of course, from Full Metal Jacket. He actually plays the captain of this kind of ship, and obviously him actually coming from a military background gives quite a realistic performance as a kind of a military captain. You've also got Ellie Pogart here, who plays one of the kind of the female officers, and she at one point was kind of like poised to be this kind of like this big B-movie screen queen that kind of never really went anywhere, but she, for a time at least, she was kind of knocking out these movies and becoming quite kind of prolific in these style films. And there's also a few other familiar faces that you'll recognise here. Overall, it's fun but very forgettable movie, and it's worth watching just to look at these kind of very hokey effects and the kind of like the almost 50s style monsters and the kind of the models that they're using for the sort of submarine and stuff like that. It's hilarious, absolutely hilarious. I mean, the dialogue, the dialogue of this movie, oh man, it is so trite. It's actually quite funny. So this is definitely a guilty pleasure movie. I still kind of liked it, but obviously I have to be somewhat critical of its failings. It's a very kind of low budget film, and really it doesn't deserve to get much more than, I would say, a 3.5 if I'm being completely realistic. But I'd have to say the fun factor may inspire some people to enjoy this movie a little more, just like I did. So the critic part of my brain has to say this movie is a 3.5, but I kind of like it. So maybe in my own mind, I'll give it about a 5. But a 3.5 officially for me. Have you seen it? What did you think of it? Leave me a comment. And I'll look forward to seeing you next time. Bye for now.